Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Hi everybody, I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Peter Clayton's behind the camera. Welcome to the Garage and the Court of Public Opinion for today. Wow. It's a cooler day. Pete, it's a nice...
it's beautiful.
Nicer weather. And good times ahead, I think. Home interest rates, I bet, will fall today. Now, we're recording on Monday afternoon for Tuesday, so I don't have any forward upfront information. Probably they will fall today. More to come too. Maybe another 4 cuts. An interest rate of 3%, I firmly believe, is in sight. But when you go out and borrow money, the point is you have to work on the basis that the interest rate is going to be around the 5 to 7% on average. 3% is a walk in the park. Anyway, interest rates down this afternoon, I believe. Could be wrong, 25 basis points. It's important, but mostly symbolic, and terribly important to this Labour government. The only thing that doesn't make it a certainty is the unemployment figures. The RBA would like them to be higher, and they won't be updated until tomorrow. That's Wednesday. And pretty quickly, after this afternoon, I would think later in the week, the Prime Minister will call an election. Recent surveys indicate significant swings to the Liberals, but Mr Dutton has to be more decisive and less vanilla. If he wants to make it a clear win and not a hung parliament, which is the worst option, if you ask me, for the country, just get rid of Labour. And I say that as I've said this on this broadcast for so many weeks, and you know all the reasons. Gold is almost $3,000 an ounce. I can remember when gold, not that I have any gold, but you know, gold was sort of $600 an ounce or something. Wow. Speaking of money, $5.13 billion half-year profit for the Commonwealth Bank. Now that's a full-year profit of nearly $11 billion. Its value is, let me see, 26 times the profit, making it the most valuable bank in the world, for which we should celebrate. A strong banking sector is key to a successful economy. You don't want shaky banks. And remember where those profits go. There's not some great big executive sitting up in ivory tower somewhere taking the money. It goes to super funds. It goes to mum and dad investors who will or should be smiling, celebrating. I hope you are. It's a huge dividend. Wonderful. Did you see, speaking of profits, the profits of AGL and Origin? Wow. Have you noticed your electricity bills? I know I have, up at least 60%. Now this is where the profits for these companies, this is where the profits are coming from. The alternatives are not cheaper, but government subsidized, yes. And certainly more profitable for the providers, but not us. But it's okay, you are saving the planet. Me, not so much. What an obscenity. What an absolute obscenity. One which I hope will cost these fools the election. which all goes back to cost of living. It's all related back to the cost of electricity. It's a great multiplier. It's reflected in everything we do, everywhere we go, everything we buy. By the way, last Saturday night and Sunday morning in Victoria in South Australia, I can't speak for the rest of the country, but it was cold. In fact, the coldest ever overnight temperature ever recorded. Ever recorded, ladies and gentlemen. Even snow on Mount Buller. February, of course, is usually the hottest month of the year. Hottest month of summer. Now, that doesn't fit the narrative, so it didn't get a mention. Isn't that funny? Holy moly. Really weird. What else is around? New electoral laws on, well, basically, what these people do is they spend to win. They're not spending because they like spending. They're spending to win the election. New laws, okay, but still no change to truth in political advertising. Those laws haven't changed. If I can remember all of this, I don't know. Donations over $5,000 must be declared individually. There's a cap on individual donating. There's a limit of $50,000 and a spending limit on candidates of $800,000, which sounds reasonable to me. Sounds like a lot of money to me. But some think that it's a stitch-up. Well, what do you think? You might let me know on Friday next week. The crossbenchers are hoping that this thing won't pass, but it will. They're angry, furious, cutting them out of the deal. They say that the two big parties have conspired against the smaller parties and the independents. Now, I don't quite understand this. Money does not always equate to getting you elected. Now, remember Clive Palmer. He spent $100 million at the last election. More than anyone else ever has. And zilch, nothing. No, I think he got one person elected, didn't he? Pete, do you remember?
Yeah, I think he got one.
He got one person elected. Hell! The real need was to reform political advertising. Bring it in line with all the other advertising. You must tell the truth. Who am I kidding? Do you think these guys are going to sit around a parliamentary table and vote for Christmas? These turkeys? Can you imagine? If a political candidate promises something, he or she, or these days it might be an it or a they, I don't know, will have to deliver under threat of criminal penalty. That's what's needed. That's the reform we need. But it won't happen. They're all in lockstep. Whether it's superannuation, retirement, pensions, or political advertising, it's one rule for them and one rule for us. And they get away with it. Don't know why. Where's the media? I'd love to know. We're here in the court of public opinion, and so are you. Hundreds of millions of dollars. Not that the government will tell us exactly how much has been spent because of these violent criminals, these asylum seekers who were turned loose by the High Court because of government incompetence. Yes, they could have stopped it. They could have had a posse that headed off the problem. But no. The feds have refused to disclose the cost of this exercise, putting them on Nauru. Absolutely disgraceful. And while we're on the subject,
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
The minister in charge of the, and I quote, the criminally controlled NDIS, one Bill Shorten, has taken his speech writer. We were talking about this around the dining room table, jeremycordeaux.com last Friday. He's taken his speech writer. How many speeches, God name, how many speeches did he make? He's taken his speechwriter with him to his new position as Vice-Chancellor of the Canberra University. It's an interesting story. It is. These people, parliamentarians, are apparently allowed a speechwriter. Regardless of how many speeches they make, no accountability, they're allowed a salary for a speechwriter of $140,000 a year or thereabouts. I would ask, why would a minister need a speechwriter? Can't he or she talk and think for him or herself? They have someone to write their words? That's disgraceful. But it doesn't end there. This Bill Shorten appointee was hired for not $140,000 a year, but for $300,000 a year, and on a 2-year contract. That's $600,000. How many speeches did that guy make in that time? Why? Who allowed that? How many speeches did she write, let alone how many did he make? Where are they? Can't Shorten talk? Wow. Wow. Now we discover that Bill Shorten is taking his speechwriter, one Julianne Stewart, with him to his new multi-million-dollar-a-year job at the university. Vice-chancellors make speeches? I don't know. Has she taken a pay cut? Is there a vice-chancellor with a scriptwriter? I don't know. Tell me, I'd love to know. I've never heard of such a thing. Pete, what do you reckon?
Oh, it's insane.
It is insane. $300,000 a year. I think the world's gone mad. Anyway, ring me on Friday and let me know what you think. 0491 65 68 60, jeremycordeaux.com, around the dining room table. And brought to you with the best wishes of the Rising Sun Inn on Bridge Street at Kensington. It's a lovely old atmospheric pub. Once you visit it, stand at the bar and have a glass of wine or a glass of beer. Soak up the atmosphere and the hospitality. And if you want to stay for lunch or dinner, you'll really be rewarded with that. And my other sponsor is Jim Elder Fine Art, Melbourne Street, North Adelaide. Now, he is running, I think it's 4, maybe 5 auctions this year. So if you've got a painting that you would like to sell, number one, you've got to know what it's worth. Well, you've got to know that you want to sell it. But at that point, you want to know whether it's worthwhile you selling it. It could be, I mean, you and I have heard of these stories over so many years where somebody finds something at a garage sale in the attic or something, and it's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. It does happen, and it can happen to us. I never stop looking, and I never stop ringing and talking to Jim, because he is a whiz. He understands chapter and verse the value of art, and he sells to the world. Jim Elder Fine Art, Melbourne Street, North Adelaide, the best. In fact, I think probably one of the only in Australia in all honesty. I've never heard of anyone who does what he does. But then again, that's what I like about my sponsors. I've never heard of any other inn or bar or what can I call it, restaurant like the Rising Sun. I'm very, very flattered and proud to have them on board. Ben Fordham, I don't know if you know the name, the excellent Sydney broadcaster. He revealed yesterday that the federal government has spent over $500,000 on welcome to country ceremonies. Do you like that, Pete?
Again, it's insane.
$500,000. In other words, that's about the same amount of money that they spent on the voice referendum for nothing. That's $1 billion in just 2 years. Wasted. Totally wasted. That alone should bloody well get them the boot. By the way, while we were playing chicken with our military assets in the South China Sea the other day, clearly, you saw what they did with the Orion. They were firing flares in front of it. Chinese are not, or don't seem to be, an ally. They don't, at times, even seem to be a friend. While we're concerned with TikTok and AI, DeepSeek, has it occurred to anyone that the Chinese own just about every power company in Australia? Just asking. Just asking. The things I learn on my own program, Pete, it's amazing. The ABC costs the taxpayer 1.1, more than that actually, but say for round figures, $1.1 billion a year. The ABC, national broadcaster. And around 40% of us have never watched it or listened to it. Believe it or not, the ABC fails to reach 10.6 million Australians. Have they ever asked themselves why? More than 1 million people tuned out in just the last year. And it would be cheaper to provide everyone in Australia with a free subscription to Stan, or one of the other places, I don't know, 1,500 different channels and programs and choices. Now this is all the fault of the ABC itself. The consequences of their programming, their policy, philosophy, ideology. As I've said to you, they campaign. They do not report. Everything is done through the prism, the lens of the left, and the promotion of the left. In short, ladies and gentlemen, there is no balance. They lost the plot many years ago. Many years ago it was a meritocracy, simply the best, run by people like Sir Charles Moses and Sir Talbot Duck Manton. It slowly became a political instrument of the left, beginning with the arrival of Whitlam and the appointment of various Labour apparatchiks to run and manage it. And even today, well, I don't know the present chairman, Kim Williams. I do know that he is married to the daughter of Gough Whitlam. I really think it's time we drained the swamp and returned the national broadcaster to the people instead of the elites, the socialists and the intellectuals. And by the way, bring back Radio Australia, which was once our voice and presence in the region. Now imagine anyone stupid enough to scrap that. I was so sad to see Philip Brady had died. Long time. I can't say he was a friend of mine, but I certainly ran into him many times. We did Reg Grundy programs together. He was doing The Moneymakers. I was doing Blind Date. A stalwart of the industry. Long-time TV and radio performer, personality. Did a fantastic show on 3AW. Well into his 80s, in fact. It was called Remember When? Memories and History of Radio. and music of the 50s and 60s, a bit of the 70s. Nostalgia, I suppose you'd call it. Back in the day when men were men and movies really moved. It was a great success. And if there was a proper talk station in Adelaide, we would grab Bob Byrne and we would do exactly the same thing here because he...
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Written books on the very same subject. Nostalgia. You know, it's a funny thing. I never knew this. Heard it somewhere, don't remember where, but nostalgia was once regarded as a fatal illness. I can't imagine how fondly looking back or past memories, even through rose-coloured glasses, could possibly be a sickness. But there you go. Times change. Mike Friedlander is a federal member of Parliament for the electorate of those southwestern suburbs of Sydney. And he's worked, and indeed does work, at the Bankstown Hospital. He's a Jew. And he is particularly horrified at the story that broke during the week. I refer to the video published allegedly by an Israeli podcaster, an interview with two nurses at the Bankstown Hospital in Sydney's southwest. This is an area which is very popular with Middle Eastern migrants. Bankstown, Lidcombe, Auburn, around there. Lovely people, I'm sure. But these two, not so much. Not so much. How representative they are, I don't know. Question is, how did this TikTok celebrity find these two people, nurses? And why would they say all that hateful stuff publicly? There's something wrong here. I don't quite get it. The world seems to be in high dudgeon about the whole thing, outrage over what they said. I don't know why anyone is surprised. If I could speak generally, the Muslims have hated the Jews for centuries. I'm assuming that these people come to Australia knowing something about our values, a very diverse and tolerant country. One was born here, and the other nurse arrived from Afghanistan at the age of about 12 as a refugee. In the interview, these two nurses, a man and a woman, identified themselves unashamedly as Muslims. She was wearing a hijab. They declared openly that they would kill not only any Jew that they found in their care, but had, in fact, and I quote, already sent Jews to hell. Quite shocking and blatant. And if you can believe what they said, honest. No fear of consequences of such a public confession. And I don't imagine for 1 second there would be too many Jews really in that part of Sydney. But to make such a statement shows the contempt in which their culture holds our laws and medical ethics. They have been stood down with the New South Wales Premier vowing that they will never work in healthcare in that state again. What about the rest of the country? Who speaks for that? I don't know if that is enough to reinstate public trust in the system. Why weren't they arrested and charged? They confessed to killing people. But don't be naive. This opens up the whole issue of immigration. Or if it doesn't open it up, it should. People do not or don't seem to leave their inherited hate and prejudice, thousands of years of it sometimes, at the door. Unless as a nation you demand it. Over many years, these lefties have encouraged what they call multiculturalism instead of assimilation, producing ghettos like southwest Sydney, enclaves, separate little countries. It's bleeding obvious that assimilation is the only way to create harmony. The Labor Party, no doubt, wring their hands, say shock horror. Their policies over so many years have created this situation. And you know what? They won't change a thing. It's like, you know, The Voice. They were confronted with the absolute defeat of this thing and the loss of the money. They kept on doing it. They're arrogant and wrong. You come to this country, which is predominantly a white Christian democracy, which respects women, freedom of thought and speech, freedom of religion, human rights. We are accepting and tolerant. We are not stupid. Come to Australia and seek citizenship. If you do that, you have to know you're on probation. Be careful what you do and say. To marry off your 11-year-old daughter or practice female genital mutilation, FMG, you're out of here, or should be, in a flash. That would be my policy. No point in trying to deal with the consequences of multiculturalism after the event. It's too late. Dutton should come out, identify the problem, and outline a new and better policy. Has he got the chutzpah to do it? I don't know. He's got victory in sight. Absolutely nothing from the nurses' union about these two people, by the way. That seems strange. Platitudes from the Islamic Medical Association. And something else. The New South Wales Labor government says this is a hate crime. Wow. Hello. Yeah. And they're dead against hate speech. Well, if Labor federally or at the state level attended any of the Palestinian demonstrations around this country, they would have seen the same kind of hate and prejudice, stated threats. It's only that this TikTok posting went public that they got fired up. Make no mistake, there is a lot to be fixed. But I don't believe this present government wants to. You see, they want to win the 800,000 Muslim votes, when some of them clearly should be deported. This government is conflicted. These two nurses, one born in Australia, the other arrived at the age of 12, both expressed hatred of Jews. They came here from a connection, or they came here from or with a connection to Afghanistan. Afghanistan, let's talk about that. Afghanistan. You can't bring people here from Afghanistan without imagining that they'll bring their luggage. One of the truly primitive, backward hellholes in the world. It's pretty simple. We are happy to rescue you from all of that. But don't come here and bring your culture and history if it involves hatred, religious or otherwise. We have overlooked for a long time the obvious. Here's the question. Is there any place in modern Australia for a culture that dislikes what we stand for? Talk to me on Friday around the dining room table, jeremycordeaux.com. We stand for democracy, equality, human rights, freedom. You can't, can you, well, I better not say you can't, can you mix oil and water? Should you even try? Labour wants the 800,000 Muslim votes, which are votes they traditionally get. Governments are here not to just get elected, but to do the right thing by the majority. Multiculturalism, like socialism, like communism, it's an ideal, a theory, an ideology. Is the Liberal Party any better? I don't know. If John Howard was running the show, I would have no doubt. It's up to Dutton to come out there and state clearly, definitively, the difference. I'm looking for that. In recent times, you know, there have been 2 random attacks on the people of Germany, both carried out using a car as a weapon, as a murder weapon, driven at speed into people on a crowded street. Both carried out by Muslims. One of the murderers was in fact a doctor. Both had origins in Afghanistan. Both were given sanctuary. What can I say to you? Just be careful who you try to help. Pete, am I through?
Pretty much.
Are we running out of...
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Tape running out of... Have I got time for one more?
Yes.
Because we've got to do the dates as well.
Yeah.
I did want to talk to you about Ozempic. Please do not get your medical or health advice from me. I'm not qualified in any way. But vested interests, I see, have started to fight back against Ozempic. This is the weight loss drug. This was always going to happen. People, businesses have huge amounts of money invested in gyms, diets, weight loss, products, pills, drinks, pre-prepared meals. God, it's a very lucrative industry. And you would have to know they weren't going to go quietly. These injectable weight loss products are, I am told by my doctor, a revolution. Good for the heart, circulation, most importantly weight loss. Obesity is, if it's not it is certainly the, in my mind anyway, #1 health issue facing the world, obesity. This may not be a magic bullet, but all of the scare and negative stories that keep popping up, and I keep seeing them, you'll lose your muscle, not your fat. It's bad for your bones. It'll ruin your eyesight. Now, I don't believe that your doctor or my doctor, the people that we need to take advice from, I do not believe these people would prescribe these products if there was a problem. And I know from my own inquiries they've been around for decades, at least 20, 30 years. But, you know, when you hurt somebody in the pocket, he comes out screaming. Now, I can I do some, I do have a few moments to do some dates?
Yes.
Oh, bless you. Oh dear, I'm going to drop my glasses. And my eyesight was worse before I started taking Ozempic. It's all right. All right, where are we? It's February the 18th, ladies and gentlemen. Happy birthday or happy wedding anniversary. I hope you're going to have a lovely day today. As we post this edition of the Court of Public Opinion on Facebook, or when I say we, I mean Pete. It's all black magic to me, Pete. I don't know how the hell you do it. Anyway, 1986, anti-smoking ad airs for the first time on television. Did you ever smoke, Pete?
No.
No. I used to smoke a pipe. I used to enjoy that. It was very comforting. I liked it. Made me feel sophisticated and something. I don't know. Anyway, Yul Brynner made an ad. He died of smoking-induced lung cancer on the 10th of October, 1985. They put the ad to air 1 year later in 86. And he literally addressed people from the grave and told him with great theatrical ability his little story in 30 seconds. Don't smoke! Mark Twain publishes The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn in America, 1885. God, he was clever, Mark Twain. What was his name? Sam Clements. Yeah, Sam Clements. Mark Twain was the thing that the guy at the front of the riverboat would have a weight that he'd throw off the bow, and there would be various marks, and Mark Twain was the one that got you over any obstacle that you were going over in the river. Mark Twain, he called himself Mark Twain, but he was Sam Clements. Fantastic man. Snow falls in the Sahara Desert. Well, it fell on Mount Buller just 2 days ago, in the middle of summer, here in Adelaide. Go figure. Snow falls in the Sahara Desert in 1979 on this day. John Travolta, American actor, Welcome Back Kotter, Saturday Night Fever, Pulp Fiction, and a guest of mine on my program. I got a picture of him over there. We were on 5DN together. John Travolta. He was born in Inglewood, New Jersey on this day in 1954. Scottish pop singer Lulu weds British rock musician Maurice Gibb. He was 19, she was 20. They divorced in 73, but married on this day in 69. Sybil Shepherd, American actress, moonlighting, Last Picture Show, born in Memphis, Tennessee, on this day in 1950. Henry Tudor, later to become Henry VIII, was created Prince of Wales, this day 1503. Sculptor Frederic Auguste Bartholdi is awarded a patent for his design of the Statue of Liberty on this day in 1879. The Statue of Liberty was a gift sent over in boxes and crates, sent over from the Republic of France to the new Republic of the United States of America. What else can I tell you? Martin Luther, German theologian and key figure in the Protestant Reformation, dies at 62. He was the year was 1546. This was the day. The first Church of Scientology is established in Los Angeles, California, in 1954. I've never known what to make of the Church of Scientology. I don't think I want to either. Yoko Ono, Japanese artist, poet, singer, second wife of John Lennon, born to stay in Japan in 1933. Kublai Khan, the Mongol Emperor, 1260 to 1294, founder of the Yan dynasty in China, dies at 78. Genghis Khan, who was a descendant of Kublai Khan, was credited, if that's the expression, with having killed half the population of the then known world. Interesting thought to ponder, Pete?
Yeah, I didn't realise that.
Yeah. The Holy Roman Emperor Joseph II bans children under 8 from labour, or working, I suppose that means. That was 1787. Robert Oppenheimer, American theoretical physicist known as the father of the atomic bomb, the Manhattan Project, dies of throat cancer. I bet he was a smoker at the age of just 62 on this day in 1967. Ah, dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Charles Louis Tiffany, American jeweler and founder of Tiffany and Company, dies at the age of 90 on this day in 1902. Now, what else? Let me pick just one more. Winston Churchill makes his maiden speech in the British House of Commons on this day in 1901. God bless you, sir. Great man. Features and looms large in my life, I must tell you. Sir Winston Churchill. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you, Pete. Bless your heart. Thank you for viewing the Court of Public Opinion. I look forward to your company on Friday around the dining room table. Lots of interesting guests and conversation and stuff to be dealt with. And any comment that you want to make or anything you want to put on the table, as we might say. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Believe in yourself, and thank you for viewing the Court of Public Opinion.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.